What's up guys, Dishsoap here, back with the 13.14 patch legend and comp tier list. This time I'm going to keep the legend tier list kind of short because I have a lot of comps to go over. I basically put every single comp that I knew of in this list so that people wouldn't ask me like, oh hey, what do you think about XYZ comp, blah blah blah. So I'm literally putting everything here. Anyways, in S tier, we have Ord and Yi. No real changes to either of them, just the meta has shifted favorably to Yi. I put Yi in A last time, I think A or B. And I said that he was good, just the meta wasn't suited for him, and now the meta is suited for him. Basically just meaning that Zeri is back in meta. Zeri is very good. He's also okay for Deadeye. Mostly just because of pumping up. I think people are extremely overrating Gotta Go Fast, his 4-2 augment for AP comps. I don't really think that's that good. But for Ornn's not like super strong with any of his augments, but all of his augments are just safe, I guess. There's nothing really like below average, and Ornn items are like always good. That's about it. No word changes to either of them. No word changes to Aesol either, but legendaries are super meta at the moment, so Aesol will become stronger just because of that. They buff Caitlyn's gold and prismatic augment on 2-1. Personally, I'm not really a fan of her, but she's probably really good if you need help early game and you want direction. She's good for that. And then Veigar actually got his 3-2 tiny power nerfed. It's still okay, but the big thing is that they bug fixed his 2-1 augment, Jewel Lotus, to actually have the correct values. In the previous patch, it was not giving the correct values, so he's solid because of that. Personally, I think he's just slightly worse than Yi, just because right now comps just want attack speed more than crit. Vlad's an A. He's about as strong as Veigar. Vlad, Yi, Veigar are all just like meta dependent on what comps are good. Vlad is really good with Bruisers and Shurima. So whenever like Azir, Nasus is in meta, or whenever like Rek'Sai is in meta, Vlad is going to be really good. But whenever Zeri's in meta, yeah, he's going to be really good. And Veigar is good with, like, Slayers and Deadeye Challengers? I don't know. Honestly, I would have to look more into that. But he's good with, I know he's good with Slayers. But yeah, that's just the dynamic between those three. B tier, we have Bard and Ezreal. The start of the patch, Bard was probably S tier because his silver augment was broken. But one day later, they patched it, making his silver augment give you a free 3 cost down to a 2 cost. Meaning his silver augment's not that good anymore. And his gold and prismatic augments were never really that good. So he's just in B. I will say though, the strength of Bard depends so much around what portal you start. I think Bard probably jumps up to A/S tier if you get a like the more econ you get from portals, because his augments depend on him getting higher and higher levels. So he scales really well with something like Scuttle Puddle, where you just have like a bunch of extra gold, for example. So you can actually reach those levels earlier and get his rewards earlier. Ezreal's kind of like Bard, he just scales up. I guess he just gives you his rewards like in a set time, but they're just random. Items are really good in this game. Personally, I think Ornn is just a better version of Bard and Ezreal on average. Yeah, that's about it. I think Bard can like theoretically cap higher than Ornn. Okay, honestly, maybe Ezreal. I mean, Ezreal's okay. I think Ornn is just a straight up better version of Ezreal, but Bard kind of has his own merits sometimes. Lee Sin, basically just the reroll legend. If you only want to play reroll for some reason, go Lee Sin. But right now, I would say it's much more of a 4 and 5 cost meta. I put him in B, but honestly, like, I would never play him, so there's that. Poro's in B. You could argue for, like, A tier. The reason I don't go Poro is because Ord is just, like, the safe version of Poro, I guess. Because you never really feel bad about taking Ornn augments, so I just don't really see the point of Poro. Urf is okay. I know people in CN like to play for Urf. There's a lot of high roll potential. I think the big one is, like, Zon, Piltover, Freljord, Shadow Isles, stuff like that. Noxus, but I think it's just not consistent enough. And a while ago, his 3-2 augment got nerfed because of Ezreal. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Orf. Like, he can win games, but just not the most consistent way to climb, in my opinion. Pingu was actually okay last patch because of Kayle meta, but now that Kale's nerfed, he's not really that good. He's good if he gets Piltover 2-1, but what legend isn't good if you get Piltover 2-1, you know what I mean? TF is like the hard force legend, but there really isn't any comp that I would suggest hard forcing this patch. So putting him in C tier. And then D tier is just the econ legends, basically. Draven and Tahm Kench. Right now, the better econ legends are just Aesol and Caitlyn. If you want an econ playstyle, just play those instead. These two probably need buffs. Cut to comp tier list now. Okay, now to the comp section. Before I go over like every single comp I have, and as you can see, there's a lot. It doesn't even fit on my tab screen. I want to just discuss the legendaries real quick, because right now this patch, the legendaries are strong enough that like if you hit them, if you hit them 1-star, they're probably strong enough to replace something on your board like stage 4. If you hit a 2-star legendary, it's probably just going to be stronger than anything on your team most of the time. So I just wanted to go a little in depth on like how to use them, how to itemize them, and like stuff like that. First we have Aatrox. He got a really big buff this patch, makes him an actual decent carry. I really wouldn't worry about Bis Aatrox. Usually you just put whatever leftover garbage you have on him, kind of like Urgot. But if I were to make a Bis for him, it would most definitely include QSS, because he's a melee champ, no CC immunity, and also he scales off the attack speed really, really well. Healing is always nice for him, melee champ, and he's gonna go frontline, so I have GS. But honestly, like, you can throw whatever you want in him. Titans, IE, Last Whisper, DB, all that stuff. But yeah, really good melee carry. Ahri as well got a massive, massive buff. Ahri's probably the best unit in the game right now. Generally, you just want mana plus AP on her, and she'll just wipe boards. Usually, you want at least 3 Ionia on her, but it's not necessarily needed. We have Cassante. Cassante didn't really get changes. Honestly, he's probably the weakest legendary with Bel'Veth, like as well as Bel'Veth. But if you have mana items on him, he could be a really good counter to some comps. Sign didn't get changed, but Sign was always good. Just put tank items on him because he doubles the effectiveness of tank items since he has 2 lives. Bel'Veth was actually supposed to get like buffed this patch, but they added an A patch like a day before the patch came out that actually nerfed her pretty hard. And she's actually like the worst performing legendary of the data, like by a decent amount. I think she's like, if you hit a 2-star Bel'Veth, she's still good. Generally, people have started just playing Aatrox as their AD, quote unquote, carry late game. Also, this should be an RFC. Her best items are GA, RFC. She feels really bad if you don't have either of them. But yeah, she's okay. Just not as good as she used to be. Heimer, don't really itemize him. If you have like 2-star, you can give him attack speed. The meta for turret items is right now it's probably double burn, 1 shrink. They nerfed the effectiveness of double shrink, so and they fixed a bug where double burn wasn't doing the correct amount of damage. Now double burn's really good. If you already have shred on your team, like say you're running a Freljord comp, triple burn can be good. If you get a Heimer early in the game and you can actually like kind of itemize them, you can go like Goldenator plus burn builds. And if you're playing like Piltover and you have shred, if you're playing a comp with shred and lots of frontline and you don't need damage, i.e. basically only Piltover, you can go self-repair, frontline turret. But usually it's just double/triple burn or like 1 or 0 shred. Rise is very dependent on the region or whatever. Off the top of my head, the really, really good ones are Noxus, Demacia, Freljord. I would consider playing Rise on any of those a lot of the time. The bad ones I would try to avoid is basically just Shadow Isles, Vandal City. Rise is whatever. I would really only try to prio like the ones that are actually good though. Also, Zon Rise is good if you hit them early and you could actually play around having a bunch of gold. But that's super, super niche. And then there's Senna. Senna's always good. She doesn't really need itemization. Shojin's obviously her best, but she just shields her whole team. Does pretty good traits. And I also wanted to go over like the shells or like some packages you can fit into certain comps. This is the Aatrox Senna Gwen package. It gives you 2 Shadow Law, 2 Slayer, and obviously Gwen Aatrox are just good standalone. You can fit this package into a lot of comps. The most common one though is Azir because you get Nasus for Juggernaut, and the entire comp kind of just fits. You a Teemo and then like, yeah, you can play a board like this. Say if you don't hit the Lux, say you hit like an Aatrox Senna Gwen instead of the Lux version, you can play this and like cap around Cassante, Heimerdinger over the Strategist, for example. Like that's an option to cap out Azir, not including Lux. You can also play this package in Challengers. Say you just replace the Senna with Callista and now you can just play the Challenger board. And it works out because Set is a Juggernaut as well. Actually, it's Warwick is a Juggernaut and then you play Shen. Never mind. Yeah, if it's in like Challenger, Azir package, Azir, yeah, definitely consider this package when you're playing these comps. And the second package is the 3 Ionia, 2 Sorc Ahri package. You would be surprised with how many comps this fits into. Obviously, anything running like Invokers, Ionia, Sorcs, this fits in. But even when you're playing like a Freljord Aphelios, you can actually fit this in. You just don't, like, you just cut like the 4 Deadeye stuff, and then boom. Now you have an Ahri Aphelios duo carry. And like this fits with like Zeri, this fits with basically anything, because it's like a frontline plus backline package. Definitely would consider it. Ahri's the best champion in the game. You should try to play her as many games as possible. So that's about it. Just remember this is this. But like obviously you don't play like Shojin's not that good early game, or blue buff is not that good early game, so like Shojin's fine over blue buff, for example. Gunblade, yes, are fine. Guardbreaker's fine. Like don't worry about the best. Just try to play Ahri every game. Okay, now Esther comps. First one's gonna be 6 Sorc, or just Sorcs in general. They buffed Lux, they buffed Ahri, they buffed Taric, they buffed Swain, they buffed Malzahar, they buffed Orianna. So the early game's a lot better now. The typical no Ahri board is this, if you have a Sorc spot. Went over this in previous guides. Itemized Lux. They actually changed Lux to not want... She wants blue buff over Shojin now, but Shojin's a fine slam. Either Shojin or blue buff, and then just, I don't know, like a damage or healing item, and then just put the Radiant. If you don't have Sorc spot, just stick to something like this. And then when you get Ahri... Okay, honestly, it's kind of awkward without Sorc spats, but just late game, you want to play around like this core. for Sorc, Ahri Lux, and then obviously you can add the Ionia package like we talked about earlier. But Sorc Zone is with Sorc Pet's a good way to play it as well. I would not sell a Lux 2 to move items to Ahri 1, but I would definitely sell a Lux 2 to move items to Ahri 2, for example. But ideally you're just itemizing them both. Next comp in S tier is going to be for Deadeye, Aphelios carry. They buffed Aphelios, they buffed Urgot, they buffed Ashe, so the comp's S tier now. Take items on Sejuani or Scion. Usually you hit Sejuani 2 before you hit Scion 1, so put items on that. But if you hit Scion 1 and you have Sejuani 1, just put items on Scion. This Aphelios is going to be Ginsu, DB, GS. GS can be whatever you want. Could be like a Runons, can be a Titans, can be an IE, can be a second Ginsu, can be a second DB. Doesn't really matter. Urgot is just going to be BT Titans +1. Third item could be whatever you want. If you have a spare rods, you can give AP to Lysandra. A good one is Morello for some anti-heal. And then, yeah, that's about it. Really good comp. This is 7 units. The last unit doesn't really matter. Heimer, Aatrox, Ryze, Senna, second Scion, Shen, Taric, just whatever works. Next S tier comp is going to be 6 Noxus. I wrote a whole guide on this, not going to go over it too much. One thing I will mention is that Titans has kind of fallen out of the meta on Darius. People prefer less Whisper now, so I would recommend this build. Also, I prio Nasus a lot more than Warwick. I don't really know why I was playing Warwick. Warwick is okay, but Nasus is just broken. Just play Nasus. And if you have Spats, I mean, I went over this in my guide. You can go check that out, but Spats go on Nasus Ekko, for example. Next S tier comp is going to be Piltover. They buffed Zeri, they buffed Urgot. In this version, you want to go for less Whisper. I also think Redon's is best, just on Gunners and Zeri for just in general. Because she already does AoE and Runons just kind of helps with that, and she has lots of AD, so Runons just does a lot of damage. Zeke's isn't that important, but if you have spare belts lying around, I don't mind making Zeke's. Last item could be whatever you want. DB is fine, GS is fine, Ginsu's fine, RFC's fine, Gunblade's fine. I would only play the Piltover version with 2-1 Piltover. If you don't have, or I guess like 2-1, 2-2, or 2-3 Piltover. If you don't have a Piltover opener, I would play the other version about to show. In A tier, this is the version of Zeri I would play if I didn't have a Piltover opener where you just Freljord Zeri. You don't play 4 Gunner. You play 2 Gunner, and then you replace 2 of the Gunners with 2 Freljords instead. And Urgot works with Ashe for Deadeye. It's nice. If you don't have the Heimer Senna, you can play 4 Zon. But obviously Heimer Senna is going to be better. Since we're running Freljord, we don't need less Whisper. So this is going to be like Rudon's DB. And then the last one can be whatever you want. I think it is okay. But yeah, tank items in Sejuani because Zeri actually procs Sejuani's passive really, really well. I think like whenever she's ulting, each of her autos counts as like 3 ticks of Sejuani's passive. Something like that. I don't know the specifics, but it's very good. Sejuani will do a bunch of true damage. I would prefer 3 tank items on Sejuani before I start itemizing Urgot, but sometimes you just have extra items, so just put leftovers on Urgot. Oh, I guess I should go for Legends. I should talk about Legends. For Sorcs, I would probably just go Earth. Or not Earth, sorry. I would go Ornn, because Deathfire, Mana Zane, Eternal Winter, really, really good. Sniper's Tricks is always good. For Deadeye, I would probably go Ornn as well. Collector, Akshan's insane. Eternal Winter Sejuani's insane. And just other stuff just helps you tempo out. Death Defiance Urgot's good. Sniper's Aphelios is okay. For Noxus, you can go Earth. Earth is probably the way you want. Like, if you're trying to force this comp, I would go Earth. But Ornn's really good as well. Death Defiance Darius is super, super strong. It's probably his best item. For Piltover Zeri, I would go Yi. Yi is best for Gunner comps because they scale the best off attack speed. So Yi for both the Piltover and the Freljord version. But Ornn is, like, you can play these comps from Ornn for sure. You don't need to be playing Yi. Next comp in A tier, we have Akshan Rerol. This would be S tier, but they gave him a pretty big nerf. But he's still really, really good. It's kind of insane how good he was before the nerf. But yeah, the gist of this comp is that on level 7, you want to be rolling for Akshan 3, Lysandra 3, with Sejuani, Nasus, Renekton, Ashe, and then a Juggernaut for Nasus. This Akshan's going to be Rudon's DB. Last one, item can be whatever you want. I'm going to be saying that a lot. GS is good. Second Runons is good. Second DB is good. IE is good. Often you can actually push levels with Akshan and just slowly pivot to the Aphelios board. Say if you're contested, or you just hit a bunch of 4 costs instead. You don't need to go for Akshan 3. Like he can hold you off for like until stage 5 for you to pivot to something else. Still in A tier, we have Tristana Reroll. Nothing really changed about this comp, but other comps just kind of got nerfed down to the power level of this comp, so this comp became good again. This Tristana is going to be less Whisper, Gunblade +1. Most people prefer GS. This Maokai is going to be Stoneplate Bramble. Bramble is actually really, really good this meta. If you can afford it, I would recommend putting Bramble on whatever tanks you have. It's kind of counters the meta a lot of the time. Still in A tier, we have 6 Invoker. They did nerf this comp a lot on the A patch. They nerfed Soraka, Taric, and Karma. But The comp's really, really good because it's the best shell for Ahri. If you get Ahri and Ryze, like, you're probably in a really, really good spot to win the game. Just the problem is getting to them. I actually don't think you're supposed to stay on 7 and reroll for, like, Lissandra, Karma, Soraka, Galio. I think what you're supposed to do is hit this board 2-star and then push level 8 and look for Ahri and Ryze. You put crit items and Karma and then transfer to Ahri late game. With 6 Invoker, you don't need a mana item. But yeah, I would just look to make Spark first and then AP items on Karma for mid game. Tank Galio, remake for Shen, all that good stuff. Best legend for Tristana is going to be Lee Sin. Best legend for this is probably just Ornn. Just extra items are good. Next comp is just going to be Warwick Reroll. Play this when you have Ravenous Hunter. This Warwick's going to be Ginsu, QSS, BT. Best Zon mods are... I mean, honestly, all of them are good. The best ones are Robotic Arm, but you don't really have a choice because you only play 2 Zon. Just don't play this with Virulent because Virulent does nothing on Ravenous Warwick. I much more prefer Juggernauts to Challengers. I don't think 4 Challenger, 6 Challenger does anything. You just want as many Juggernauts as possible, keep them as tanky as possible. One thing, though, is that I am fairly certain the magic damage that he does from the Augment does not work with Omnivamp from like BT or Gunblade or whatever, or Hodge. Healing is actually not that good on him, but you kind of still need it. If you have like Healing Orbs or whatever, I would probably not even go BT. Just if you have like Healing Orbs. I would go something like Edge of Night or maybe even like War Monks just to keep them alive instead. Usually you don't get to have Healing Orbs. That's that. No, this is still A tier. It's gonna be 6 Ionia Ahri. It's only A tier with Ahri. It's probably like low B tier without it. But basically instead of playing her with Sorcs, you just play her around Ionia. It's like, say if you have like an Ionia opener and AP items. Ideally you just carry Karma until level 8 where you can find Ahri. The +1 can be whatever you want. Heimer's just the best one usually, but like Aatrox Senna is good as well. With 6 Ionia, you definitely don't need a mana item because 6 Ionia just gives her a bunch of mana. That's just what it does. Tank items on Shin, you really want Spark as well. And leftover items can just go on Yasuo. Still an A tier. This is a niche comp. Only play this from Shadow Isle Emblem Opener, preferably the Prismatic one, because it gives you the Callista. You're just going to be win streaking around 4 Shadow Isles, rolling on 7 for Callista 2, Gwen 1 probably, and then pushing 8 for Senna and Aatrox. You put the Shadow Isle Emblem on Shen, gives him a big-ass shield, makes him super tanky, and with the extra mana, he casts like 3 or 4 times, shields the rest of your team, keeps your Kaisa alive. Yeah, I prefer the Emblem on Shen after playing it more. Honestly, this is only good from Shadow Isle's Prismatic. But if you get the Prismatic Shadow Isle crown or whatever, definitely just play this comp. Cap around like Callista 3 or just the legendaries and 4-cost 2-starred. I would itemize Kaisa over Gwen though. Gwen is not really a good carry. Also in A tier, we're gonna have Lux Azir, same comp as the past 2 patches. You can go Shiv on Azir, Spark on Nasus, both are fine, just depends on what items you have early game. Tank items on Nasus, Lux got buffed, so I prio 3 items on Lux. Make sure you have the Radiant on her. Shojin, Blue buff are both fine. Blue buff is slightly better, but it's worse early game, so most of the time you just have Shojin. And then leftover items go on Azir Jarvan. A tier comp as well, it's going to be Riftwalker Kassadin. Play this when you have Riftwalker. 1’s is going to be Hodge, JG +1. Second Hodge is going to be better, but it's kind of hard to get all those items. Leftover items go on Soraka and make sure you have Antail in the comp as well. You fill out with... Ideally you get 6 Bastion, but you need a Cassante for that, so usually you just play like Aphelios and some other garbage. But yeah, good comp. Now in B tier we have 6 Challenger. They nerfed Yasuo, which... makes me sad. Challenger's not that good anymore. It's okay. Like, you can definitely still top 4 with it, but it's definitely not as good as it used to be. I don't think RFC also is very good. I prefer just, like, full damage, like DB, IE, or something like that. DB Rudons. And then Kaisa items are just going to be Shojin plus the crit builds. Take items on sets, move to Shin, and then just pray for top 4. If you have Kaisa 2, Yasuo 2, you probably get a 3rd or a 4th. Wait for this comp to get buffed. But, I mean, B tier is still fine, right? Did I want this in B tier? Consider this like low B tier. It's gonna be Kayle reroll. This was super meta last patch, but they nerfed Poppy to the ground. They also nerfed Slayers, so this comp became a lot worse. It's still fine if you hit early enough. Play at your own risk. Honestly, this probably goes in C tier. This is definitely B tier though. Taliyah set reroll. Play this from either double trouble or 2 healthy. Even when you don't have double trouble, still just play double set, double Taliyah. It's still good. Just the more knockups you have, the better. Late game, add Scion and Cassante for more knockups. When you have double trouble or 2 healthy, it's good. Or Treacherous Glass as well. I said this is B. Oh, this okay. So I'm gonna put Kayle in C. I think it's a mistake putting her in B. She's definitely a C tier. B tier is gonna be Ekko reroll. This comp's super niche because You're rarely ever playing around Ekko, and you need very, very specific items. You literally need double Hodge JG or this unit doesn't do anything. And you need him to be 3-star as well. So usually you just play it from like Piltover opener and you get Pandora's 3-2 and you already naturaled like an Ekko 2 or something. That's the spot where you play it. Yeah, I'm just gonna cover every comp. It's a niche comp. You play 3 Freljord, Katarina, Urgot, and a Bruiser. Sion's obviously the best, but you're gonna be relying on 7. Anyways, so usually it's just like a Vi 2 or something. Over Chalices and Lysandra, leftover items, leftover damage items go on Katarina or Urgot. Leftover tank items go on Sedge. Joining B tier is Garen. They buffed Garen. He's not trash anymore. This Garen's gonna be BT Ginsu. You put the Radiant item on him. And I think running Lux is much better than Sona. I know Sona gives Garen attack speed, which is okay, but Lux is just a good unit. And then you just want to play 6 Juggernaut. A lot of times you get like a spat, and you don't have to run all of them. So you just get a spat and then you roll on 7 and have this board. Ideally, late game you have 6 Juggernaut. Nothing else really does anything for him. When you have Pandora, like usually you play this from Pandora's, and I'm pretty sure you're supposed to go for Lux items before you go for triple Zeeks. They nerfed Zeeks a while ago. It gives like 15% attack speed now over 20%. So like, is 50% attack speed on Garen really worth not having an item as Lux? I'm pretty sure it's not. You just go for the item as Lux first. Last B tier comp is going to be Rek'Sai reroll. After the Kai'Sa nerfs, I don't think you're supposed to play Kai'Sa with this comp anymore. You just pivot to Freljord. 3 Freljord has insane stats with this comp, but it only really fits on 8 with 6 Bruiser. This Rek'Sai is going to be double Titans BT. Leftover tank items go on Sejuani and Sion. Leftover AP items go on Lysandra. All good. The problem with this comp is that 1-star Rek'Sai mid-game is horrendous. You're going to lose a lot of HP mid-game. And 2-star Rek'Sai stage 4 is also horrendous. So you really have to play this comp from ahead. If you don't hit Rek'Sai 2 early and Rek'Sai 3 early, you're going to bleed a lot of HP and not be very happy. I've gone bot for this comp a lot, but I've also seen it win. So it's like a 2-sided coin. Okay, C tier we have Kayle Rerol. I already talked about it. Oh, also, I think I forgot to talk about the legends because I think you guys actually care about that. Oops. I think I stopped there. I think I stopped here. Invokers, I would just go Ornn. Warwick, I would go... Doesn't matter. I would just go... Like, I'm just default Ornn anyways, so Ornn, sure. 6 Ionia, Ornn. 6 Shadow Isle. I mean, I guess Earth, but, like, you're only playing this from, like, Shadow Isle Crown Opener, so, like, it doesn't really matter. For Azir Lux, it's actually probably Vlad. Just, Vlad is not that good for other comps, so it's kind of hard to justify playing Vlad. But Vlad's probably the best legend for this comp. For this comp, I guess TF, but like not really because you only really play this from 2-1 Riftwalker anyways, so TF wouldn't even give you Pandora's. So I don't know. Legend doesn't matter. For Challenger, probably Ornn, just want extra items. For Taliyah comp, probably Ornn just to get the Trickster's Glass high roll. For Ekko, TF, I guess, but I don't know why you'd want to hard force this comp. Garen, TF, same thing with Ekko. I don't really see the point in hard forcing a B tier comp. For Rek'Sai, probably Vlad. Just hard to justify playing Vlad if you're trying to play like Azir and Rek'Sai. For Kayle, it's Lee Sin. Okay, now we finally made up for the talking about the legends. Now we're in C tier. They fixed a bug with Multicaster, but basically what they did is they just gave 4 Multicaster a massive nerf. So now it's like it went from like A tier to C tier basically. They also just buffed the Sorc line, so I would just play Sorcs instead of this. But I don't know, if you natural like 6 Vel'Koz, 6 Sonas on like 4-1. You can play this comp. Ideally, you want to itemize Vel'Koz and Sona and have Spark frontline. Obviously, it's hard to get double Shojin, double JG, so just make work with what you have. Just be flexible with your itemization. So like Rabadon's, Archangel, Shiv, GS, Guardbreaker shouldn't be ignored. Best legend for this comp is Earth, because stuff like Mana Zane, Sniper's Focus, Deathfire, all really, really good. And now, next three comps is the play at your own risk category, i.e. D tier, i.e. meme comp status. This is Renekton Cassie reroll. I believe the unofficial community name for this comp is Reptile Romance, because Cassie was a snake and Renekton's a croc, but you reroll for Kassadin or Cassio and Renekton 3, and also Cho'Gath 3 probably, and then you just push levels for 5 Shurima, so that they both ascend. Honestly, this comp sucks, but if you start the game with like 6 Renekton, 6 Cassio, maybe try it. Yeah. Next comp, I think this is slightly better than Reptile Romance, is just Void Reroll. I played this a couple times from Golden Ticket, and I went like 6th and 3rd. The 6th though, I probably could have gone like 3rd with like better matchmaking. But basically, you want to reroll all the Voids. Ideally, Malzahar 3, Cho'Gath 3, Kassadin 3, and just push levels for Rift Herald. And ideally, you get a +1 Void and hit a Baron with a bunch of extra stats, What you can also do is just if you hit early enough, you can just sell the Malzahar and put items on Ahri. Late game, you can play around 4 Sorcs. You can play around 4 Bruiser. Doesn't really matter. You're just playing. You're just looking to win streak stage 3 and 4 with this and pivot to something better. Last comp in meme tier is gonna be Zed. Used to be S tier last patch, but they nerfed it to the ground. Play at your own risk. Yeah, that's about it. But I thought I would just put it here just in case someone asked. Oh, I guess I didn't put Kled. I guess we will be making a comp live. I would probably put this in like low B tier probably just because it's hard to force. I had this in my previous tier list, but basically you roll for Kled 3, Zed 3, Teemo 3, Swain 3, Poppy 3, go for 4-star Kled, and just push levels for Slayers. Okay, honestly, it's probably like very low B tier, top of C tier, just because number 1, it's inconsistent. Number 2, Slayers got nerfed. Honestly, it's probably C tier. I said I would do every comp, so here you go. Just for a quick recap though, S tier we have like all the legendaries. But outside of legendary comps, it's just 6 Sorc / 4 Sorc, just Sorcs. 4 Deadeye Aphelios, 6 Noxus, Piltover Zeri. A tier we have Freljord Zeri, Akshan Reroll, Tristana Reroll, 6 Invoker, Warwick Reroll, 6 Ionia Ahri, 6 Shadow Isle, and Lux Azir, and Riftwalker Kassadin. B tier we have 6 Challenger, Taliyah Set Reroll, Freljord Ekko, Garen Reroll, and Rek'Sai Reroll. In C tier we have Kayle, 4 Multicaster, and Kled Reroll, I guess. Oh, I think I deleted that, but Kled's in C tier. And then in D/meme tier we have Reptile Romance, Void Reroll, and Zed Reroll. Yeah, that's gonna be it. Longer video, but I wanted to cover actually everything. I probably missed some like extremely niche comp that someone probably plays on like for fun or something, but I covered basically everything I knew. Yeah, it's gonna be it. See you guys next time.